Alright, it's Mark again. This is the second in the series of helper lessons for my book Foundations for Guitar for everybody who doesn't have an instructor but still wants to work through the book. The PDF, we're actually going to be doing page 17 here in Foundations for Guitar, and it's just about feeling rhythms properly. If you haven't done the previous lesson on time and rhythm, you want to make sure you do that before you get to this page, and this will make a lot more sense. The thing is, we're going to do all of this stuff with the metronome. Alright, and the metronome is set to our pulse. For beginning students, people who are just doing this, I have them set the metronome to 60 beats a minute, nice and slow. If you try to do these things too fast, what's going to happen is you're not going to catch your mistakes, you're not going to be able to execute the exercises cleanly or properly. You're not going to be able to actually think about what you're doing while you're doing it. What we want to do before we start this is we want to talk about the fact that time really happens in two dimensions. There's the horizontal, where time happens one beat after the other. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, you know, it just kind of goes off into the future. But in the vertical, like on beat 1, if you can take like if you're playing in a band, and you've got a drummer and a bass player and a guitar player. On beat 1, chances are the drummer's playing with his bass drum and his cymbal at the same time, right on the downbeat of 1. The bass player's playing a note and you're playing a note. Now, if the drummer's bass drum is a little bit ahead and his cymbal's in time and the bass guitar player is a little bit late and you're playing your note on time, you know, it's kind of a mess. But if everybody's playing at exactly the same instant vertically on the downbeat of 1, if they're lined up or in alignment vertically, then everything sounds clean and tight. When you're playing in a band, this concept's really useful because if you listen down to the drummer, if everyone's playing their horizontal time nice and in time, and everybody listens down vertically down to the, you know, like whatever lines up with the parts that they're playing, the whole band's going to sound a lot tighter, a lot quicker. If you ignore these things, it usually just sounds like kind of a big mess. And this is one of the concepts that if I can get a band of young players to think about, they sound tighter and a lot better, a lot more professional, a lot quicker. And it's actually a pretty simple concept. You just have to make people aware that you know, time, you know, everyone's playing at the same time and you need to pay attention and make sure that you're nice and tight. So these exercises on page 17, we have our metronome on 60. Alright, and the way we're going to deal with our vertical time alignment, you got your metronome happening, and we're going to tap your foot on that click. So that's the first thing that's going to happen. Everything that you play, you're feeling that quarter note pulse with the metronome. You're going to count out loud with that. Now we're in a meter of 4. We're counting 4 beats to the measure. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Make sure you do this. Get used to the time happening. Don't just kind of jump in and start on the metronome. You kind of want to look at time as almost being like you're standing next to a set of railroad tracks. And if there's a train going by about 15 or 20 miles an hour, theoretically you can get on that train without hurting yourself. But if you stand there and just reach out and try and grab the train with your hand, it's going to rip your arm off. You know, if you run alongside the train and get used to the same speed that the train is going, you can hop on without too much damage. The deal with that is that if you've got the metronome going, or if you're playing in a group with other people, and somebody counts the song off, if you tap your foot, if you feel that time before you start playing, you'll actually be able to get into the music in time. You're already feeling the tempo and the pulse. If you just try and start, it's going to be all over the place. It's going to take you a while to adjust, and the music's not going to really sound very even or clean. So what you want to do before you're doing these exercises, count 4 beats before you start. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're going to clap on the attack of each of the notes that are there. And exercise number 1, those are quarter notes. So we're clapping once per beat. Alright, so I'll have 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I stop. Now the reason why I stopped is because at the end of that line there's a double bar line. That tells you that that's the end of a piece of music. Exercise number 2 those are half notes, and a half note has a duration, or it lasts for 2 counts. We're just able to do the attack of the note. You still want to count and tap your foot, you're just clapping where you would attack that rhythm. So exercise number 2, 2, 3, 4, goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Now I'm still tapping my foot because I want to feel that quarter note through this whole thing. And I'm still counting 2, 3, 4. If you notice, I'm not counting those half notes as 1, 2, 1, 2 like that, because what's happening there is that you're going to lose your meter or your accent pattern. You want to always try and make sure that you know where within the measure you are, so count 1, 2, 3, 4, regardless of what rhythm you're playing. So that's the half notes. Line number 3, we have whole notes. And with the whole notes, we're just playing on the beginning of beat 1, and the note would sustain for all 4. So that would go 1, actually, I'll give you a count off, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exercise number 4, we start mixing and matching. We have quarter notes for a measure, we have 2 half notes for a measure, we have a whole note for a measure, then we've got a half note and 2 quarter notes at the end of that. Alright, so it's going to go like this. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, that's line number 4. Line number 5 is pretty much the same idea. We're just mixing and matching these, getting used to counting and playing some different rhythms and recognizing them as they go on. You always, when you play music, need to feel where that pulse is, whether it's an eighth note or a quarter note or whatever. That quarter note has to be present in your body somewhere. And if you're not feeling it consistently, then what you're playing musically is not going to make very much sense. The next lesson after this is about eighth notes. And if you can't do this, then actually subdividing the quarter note or dividing it in half is going to be very, very difficult. And that means that any kind of strumming or soloing or anything that you do that's not just on the quarter note or on the beat really isn't going to be in the pocket or feel very good. Once again, this is on my website, markweinguitarlessons.com. If you're using YouTube, there'll be a link there. The book is called Foundations for Guitar. You can find it on Amazon.com.